All right, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? We're good?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Tito, and today I'm going to be giving a lightning talk on Authorize.net. So, a little bit of history and background to begin. What is Authorize.net? So, Authorize.net is a payment gateway, which is essentially the middleman that sits between your application and a bank to be able to securely authorize and process any payments. So, with that one, there's no real secure way to accept payments online. They've been around since 1996, which actually makes them one of the oldest payment gateways on the internet today. And in 2010, they were acquired by Visa, which brought them under one of the most recognized names in payments. Today, they're considered a leader in small business e-commerce, as they are trusted by over 400,000 merchants across North America. So now I wanted to talk about what they offer. So all these features come right out of the box with their plans, and it's a real big reason why they're considered a leader in small business e-commerce. So the first thing I want to talk about was recurring billing. This comes right out of the box at no extra cost. If you're ever planning on building anything subscription based, that's a feature you'd likely be paying extra for with some other competitors. They also provide a customer information manager, otherwise known as CIM. This allows you to securely store a customer's payment information and billing information. So if they ever decide to come back to make a repeat purchase, they don't have to re-enter their details again. This is a great feature for improving the overall checkout experience for any customers returning to your application. They also support a wide range of payment methods such as credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, PayPal, e-checks. So regardless of how your customer would like to pay, you're more than likely covered. They also include a free advanced fraud detection suite, otherwise known as AFDS, which has multiple configurable fraud filters that you can tune to your specific needs. So, for example, if a card's security code doesn't match the card details, you can decide whether you want to decline that transaction, allow it, or even hold it for review. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about the AFDS. So again, this includes a suite of fraud filters completely free with every single plan. Very significant because competitors do charge extra for advanced fraud tooling beyond what comes out of the box by default in their own plans. So the AFDS with Authorized Net is composed of 13 different configurable fraud filters. So think things like address verification. I just gave the example right now with card code validation, IP address blocking, and transaction velocity limits. So each filter lets you define exactly how your application should respond in these different scenarios. So like I said it earlier, whether you want to allow it, hold it for review, or decline it outright. But what makes it stand out is that it is rules based. So again, you're the one defining how each scenario is handled. Unlike some competitors that they make these decisions for you behind the scenes, Authorized Net puts that control in your hands, and honestly, they encourage you to configure your own rules. So, all right. So now, I quickly wanted to talk about different ways to integrate with Authorized Net. There are a few ways to do so. You can make direct API calls. You can use their hosted payment form, or you could use their official SDK. So AuthorizeNet actually recommends using their official SDK. They describe it to be the most straightforward and seamless way to integrate with them. And with the SDK, it's available for most major languages, C Sharp, Java, Ruby, JavaScript. So regardless of your tech stack, you're going to be covered here. And lastly, they do provide a sandbox environment for testing. So development teams are able to mimic different types of payments, trigger different types of responses, and also failures. If you're testing, for example, your configured AFDS filters. So you can see how everything's behaving before you ever go to production. All right, so now Click wanted to show you a sneak peek of their API documentation. I found it to be really helpful when I first started working with them. So here it is. This is a snippet of it. Their documentation covers, again, all of the available endpoints, as well as in-depth descriptions of their requests and responses. As you can see here in the snippet, they also include a live console where you can fire off real requests to your environment and you can inspect the responses back directly. Super helpful because you can test out building your requests and you don't have to write a single line of code to do so. So very helpful. If you have any questions about a specific property on any of the DTOs, its type, length constraints, or whether it's required or not, documentation has all this covered as well. So now I quickly want to show you a code example to give you a sneak peek of what it looks like to work with the SDK. So I'm going to walk you through how to charge a credit card step by step. So the first thing we want to do is define the actual credit card. The funds need to come from somewhere. So in this example, we're just going to be doing a credit card. So here we are creating a credit card object. Obviously, you can see here we're putting in a card number, expiration date, card code. In a real, what's it called, application, these values would come from an already stored customer payment profile, which is basically a stored payment method for a customer rather than being hard coded like this. So the next thing we want to do is build the actual request itself. So here we're specifying the transaction type as auth capture transaction. This means we're going to be authorizing and capturing the payment all in one single step. Some other transaction types include like void transaction to cancel a payment, refund transaction to issue a refund. So there are other types there. And then all we need to do is pass in the amount and the credit card object that we just defined in step one. So now all that is left is to send off the request and handle the response. So we have to pass our transaction request into the controller, as you can see here. And the controller is basically just a messenger that knows exactly how to talk with AuthorizeNet, and all you have to do is call execute on it. So that one execute line is what sends everything off to AuthorizeNet behind the scenes. You don't have to do any HTTP calls, or sorry, raw HTTP calls. You don't have to do any manual JSON handling. The SDK is taking care of all that for you. We then get the response back, and we just want to check whether the result came back as okay. So was it successful? Did it fail? What was the reasoning why it failed, etc. But yeah, it's just a simple and clean example. All right, so now I wanted to conclude by talking about my personal experience or my personal thoughts working with AuthorizeNet. So let's start with the positives. So the SDK, I've talked a lot about it this presentation. It was very easy and straightforward to work with. I really enjoyed it. The DTOs that they provide along with their documentation made it really easy to trigger operations, such as the example I just gave you, creating customer profiles, and much more. The AFDS was also a positive and interesting in my experience so far. The fact that it comes free in every plan that they offer, it just makes it attractive for small businesses. And also the level of control it puts in your hands is it's a very big plus. So pricing. So AuthorizeNet also runs at $25 a month with no contracts. While some competitors don't charge a monthly fee, keep in mind that features like invoicing, recurring billing, advanced fraud protection, this all comes included with AuthorizeNet's plans. So these are features that can add up if you're using competitors since they likely don't come out of the box by default. All right, so now let's quickly talk about some considerations to keep in mind when working with AuthorizeNet. So one thing I did find a little frustrating when I was working with them was around error response codes and when a payment fails or is declined. So they do provide like a full list of response codes and messages, but a lot of them map to the exact same generic message. So it makes it a little difficult when something goes wrong. You have to do a little bit of digging to actually figure out what's going wrong. So dashboard and interface. So the dashboard and interface, they do feel a little dated compared to some modern competitors like Stripe. Not a deal breaker at all, but again, if you're coming from a more modern platform, it might take a little getting used to. Um, but that's it. Thank you. That's just my talk on AuthorizeNet. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to ping me directly. I'll be more than happy to help out or answer any questions.
Thanks, Tito. That was great.